Hello everyone and welcome to the Beech Tree channel. It's been a while, but we're here and we're going to kick off with this, which is basically a kind of how to stitch this stitch sampler. There's a bit of a close-up for you. The PDF pattern to this is in the shop, link in description below. And I just thought it was a good video to kick off with, because all of the stitch alongs that I'll be doing from here on out will use these stitches pretty much. If there are any new stitches, I will show you during the stitch along, or I'll do a separate video. I'm not sure. This channel is going to evolve and I'm looking forward to just going with the flow. So yes, if you wanted to stitch up this pattern or not, if you just wanted to know how to do some of the stitches, watch along. It will be a bit boring if you just came here for a chat though. The stitch along, chat along videos, they're coming, but I thought this was a good place to start. Now, because there are some people who are here for the stitches, I've got chapters linked to this video so that you can just skip to the stitch that you need and watch that. If you're here for the longer stitch alongs, they will be coming shortly, I promise you. But without further ado, let's crack on with the first video. And for those of you who have already subscribed, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patience, and let's get the ball rolling, shall we? Yes, let's do that. Okay, we're going to start with the woven rose, which is simply a circle and 5 spokes. And it's one of those stitches that looks really complicated, but it's actually so easy. So to start, you're just going to come up through the very, very middle of your spokes there. Obviously pull the thread through and then go down again at the top of one of your spokes. And then you're going to come up through the middle again and go down again through the top of your spoke and continue around the wheel until they are all done. And this is where it gets fun. You come back up through the middle again, only this time you're going to weave your thread under and over your spokes. And you're going to go around the wheel again and again and again until you're done. Please excuse my hands here. I was filming at a very weird angle and it was a bit difficult to get the needle and the thread up and over as I needed to. Yeah, we'll just move on. But as you can see from this, it really is that simple. You are just weaving over and under, over and under. You won't find it as tricky as I was, because you will be holding your hoop at a normal angle. Now, sometimes as you're weaving, you'll notice that your rose is forming not necessarily perfectly centered within the circle. That is absolutely fine. Mine wasn't completely centered, but you'll see that as the rose started to get bigger, it started to even out. Now I'm going to finish it by slipping my needle through a stitch, leaving a loop, and then just passing my needle through. You can do it once, but I chose to do it twice here, and that just helps fix and anchor your stitches. And then sometimes your rose can look a little bit too neat. So you can just take the end of your needle and gently tease the stitches to make them look a little bit more softer and less perfect. Okay, moving on to French knot now. This one tends to be quite tricky for folks, but it's actually very simple again, just like the woven rose. You come up through the center of the place that you want to have your French knot, secure the thread with your hand, and then just twist it around your needle as many times as you want. I'm doing it twice here, and then again just hold it with your thumb to keep it in place, and gently being key, pull your thread and your needle back through. And that's it. That's a French knot. The trick is just to not pull too tight, and I find that holding the thread in place really does help it just stop unraveling. Now I'm going to show you one now, but I'm going to twist the thread around the needle 3 times, and what this does is just simply gives you a thicker knot. And when you push your needle down, you have to push it down in the fabric in the same place that you came up. It doesn't have to be the same hole, but more or less in the same place. And obviously if you want finer knots, you can use fewer strands of your thread, but I went for big and chunky so that we could see what I was doing here. Okay, this one's one of my favourites, and that's the fishbone stitch. More often used for leaves. Now I'm a little bit out of shot here, but basically you bring your needle up at the top of the leaf, and then you bring it back down through the fabric about a stitch length below. And then you want to bring your needle back up just below the top one and to the side of it. And then you push your needle back in just below the original stitch, which that was perfect timing to go blurry, brilliant. And then you'll do it on the other side, back up just below and to the side of the original stitch. And then when you push it down, it goes below the last stitch, like that. And you're going to alternate right and left until you get to the bottom. Ta-da! And I thought I would give these leaves a little stem because why not? Okay, lazy daisies next. And to start, you basically want to take your needle through the bottom of the petal and then bring it back down next to where you came through originally, but don't pull too tight and leave a loop like I'm trying to here. Once you've got your loop behaving itself, bring your needle back up through the fabric, but at the top of the petal, and then pull it through the loop and pull your thread, but not too hard. I can't really show you here because I've gone out of shot. Yes, you don't want to pull it too hard, otherwise it will ruin the petal shape. And then you're just going to push your needle down outside of the loop so that you can anchor your petal in place. And that is literally it. And you can just repeat for all of the petals. And there you go. It's a bit fiddly, but it's simple. And I'll speed up the rest of the petals so that we can see how it looks at the end. And there you have it. Moving on to the running stitch. This one is easy peasy. You just bring your needle up at the beginning of the stitch and down about a stitch length ahead. How long you want your stitches is completely up to you, but however long, you kind of want to leave the same distance in between each stitch as well to try and keep them as even and as uniform as possible. This is tricky to do while filming and keep everything in a straight line, but I think I managed it. And there you have it, the running stitch. Nice and easy, unless you're filming yourself. And now the back stitch. This one has got to be one of my favourites, and it appears a lot on the work that I do. You start a stitch off in the same way that you do a running stitch. There you go, back down. And then you jump ahead a stitch length in front of yourself, and then you bring it down back into your first original stitch. So jump ahead again and pull your needle through the fabric. And push the needle through the previous stitch and continue in that vein. Now this stitch does use a lot of floss because the back end of the hoop often ends up looking a lot like the front, if not a little bit more chain stitchy. You'll see what I mean in a minute. It's a lot. But I do like it because it does give a lovely continuous line. And as promised, here's the back. Like I said, it uses up a lot of thread. This is the split stitch. Now start as you would a running stitch. And this time you're going to take your needle back through the middle of your original stitch. So you're literally splitting the stitch in two. And then you're going to bring your needle forward a stitch length, creating the second stitch. And then you're going to bring your needle back through the second stitch and split it in half. And there you have it. That is the split stitch. That's exactly what it says on the tin. And this is what it will look like when it's done. Okay, I had to refilm the chain stitch, so you'll have to excuse me that it's a little bit out of focus. So you pull your needle and your thread through at the beginning, but instead of going a stitch length ahead, you bring the needle back down through the original hole. Now I've got the thread in place with my thumb because you need to leave a loop, much like a lazy daisy. And then you bring your needle back up a stitch length ahead through the loop, and again pull your thread through but not too tight. And then again you want to push your needle through, if not through the original hole, then as close to it as you can possibly get. Create another loop, and again don't pull too tight. And then bring your needle up a stitch length ahead through the loop and pull gently again. This stitch is much slower and it does pay to take your time. if your thread does start twisting up and it makes your loop twist around, that's just a sign that your thread needs to be untwisted. And the easiest way to do that is when you push your needle through the hoop and it's dangling at the bottom, just let it dangle so that it untwists itself. I was being impatient and not doing that, but it'll stop that thread twisting and your loops twisting, and it will stop you from going crazy, basically. Now don't worry, I am going to show you how to do the other 2 stitches, but as I say, I had to refilm this stitch, so I had to go back after I'd finished this hoop and redo them. So we're going to move on to the stem stitch in a minute. And to anchor it, just like the Lazy Daisy, you just want to bring your needle down outside of the loop, and that just holds it all in place. Ta-da! Okay, that was the original row of stitches that I had to pull out, but we're going to move on to the stem stitch now. And this is another nice and easy one. Bring your needle and thread up at the beginning. Bring it down a stitch length ahead of you. And I've got hold of the thread because again, you're going to create a loop and you're going to bring your needle up in the middle of the original stitch and then tighten it. Keep it out of place, go a stitch length ahead and push your needle down through the fabric. And then this time you want to push your needle through, but this time where your original stitch ended rather than in the middle. And you want to continue on like that along the line. And what this does is it creates a lovely almost twist effect to the stitch. Now for this last stitch, just to keep it uniform with the others, you just bring it down at the end and then you bring it up as before, but obviously you just want to end right in front of your last stitch rather than jumping forward into the next one. And it just keeps the twist nice and uniform. And there you have it, there's the stem stitch. And moving on to the satin stitch. Now a tip that I use is to divide up the area that I'm going to be stitching or filling with a satin stitch. And to do that, I just section it off. And I'm going to show you how I do that with this little area here. Using a satin stitch, I am literally dividing it up into squares. This I find tends to really help keep the stitches straight, or at least going in the direction that you want, because sometimes you'll be filling an area where the stitches need to curve to go with a curve in a pattern. It just helps keep you on track, not to mention it can break down what can otherwise be an overwhelming pattern. And once you've got it divided up, you can go back and start filling it in. Satin stitch is thread intensive. and I'll show you what I mean when I show you the back in a minute. Basically, the back will look like the front. And if you have a lot of space to fill in, it's going to end, the back will look like a hot mess. Hoop guts are always really interesting to me. So just bear this in mind. If you're going to be filling in large areas, make sure that you have enough of the colour threads that you're going to need. You will always need more. Whatever you think that you need, and then buy some more. There is nothing worse than running out of the thread that you need. Okay, we're done. Let's see the back. Okay, not quite the same as the front. The back will always look messier. I also had to change my thread halfway through, hence the knots. But I'm also finishing it off with a double knot here just to secure the stitches. And bish, bash, bosh, we're done. Well, now we're done. Ah, ta-da-da!